Few Tesla analysts have been calling the stock forecast correctly better than our guest today. Brian Wang predicted last November at the election Tesla stock would rise to $450 within 90 days. He's back today staying with his prediction. Stock will be $1,000 by end of year. Brian has also been calling the progress of Tesla's AI chip growth exactly. Today, he'll explain how he sees Tesla's Robotaxi to roll out, and interestingly, he thinks a mix including human supervised Teslas will be needed. Brian Wang is a futurist thought leader and a popular science blogger with 1 million readers per month. His blog nextbigfuture.com is ranked #1 science news blog. Covers many disruptive technologies and trends. Welcome back again to the channel. Appreciate you doing this show with me today, Brian.
Great to be here, Herbert. A lot to talk about.
Lots to talk about. Things continue to change every time. Every once in a while, we do a show about once a month, and you've been knocking out of the park. One of the things you've done really, really well is your stock price prediction. People loved it because you threw out one of the biggest numbers, and then most people will just ignore it, but actually it turned out to be right. You called it before everyone else did that the stock will hit all-time highs at 450 last year. And then you started saying that you believe, and you gave me the reason, you'll repeat why you think you still believe that by the end of this year, the stock will be $1,000. That's a very big, bold move. But before we explain that, tell me more about this slide and why you're thinking what's going to happen in 2026.
So I believe that Tesla is in a transition to be an AI company. Like, keep people on the bear side keep saying it's only a car company. And the transition to being not just an AI company, but the AI winner will become very, very apparent in 2026 and fully emerge in 2027 and 2028. But so the picture is talking about in the center there is the Cyber Cab. So that'll be in volume production. We're going to see this rollout starting in June of unsupervised paid robotaxi, and then there will be deployment to other cities through the end of this year, and then by next year we'll have at some point late the million some vehicles that are in the United States that will be awakened into a robotaxi service. So we'll discuss the detailed rollout there. The other thing is the Teslabot in the top left corner, which is we've seen them dancing, and we'll have a few thousand working in factories, which is the Tesla factories there. That actually is, I view, more important than any kind of commercial sale or deployment, is to enable the physical AI to improve the factory. And that's in the middle picture showing the XAI data center, but also can be representative of the factories as a product. That if I apply AI to the gigafactories with the unbox process centered around bots, improving that will be a massive change. You can increase production 5 times per line, and that step up in productivity would be like beginning the industrialization process of the world, having physical AI and AI in the factories, improving and speeding things up. The recursive improvement of I'm making a factory making product or making AI models, and then having the AI physically and digitally improve that system is super important. And then we have the two chips down below, which are an Nvidia chip, a B200 in the middle, and then a Dojo chip or tile on the right. Elon has said that he's figuring out how to, as quickly as possible, deploy a terawatt of AI data center compute. Most people don't know that XAI is a leader going to 1 gigawatt, perhaps as early as the end of this year. That they already have 300,000 chips. I think some people are saying 300,000 H100 equivalents. I don't think that's correct. I think they have physically 300,000 chips, 100,000 H100s, 100,000 mix of H200 and H100, and 100,000 B200s. That was from David Sachs in the All In podcast, who's also the AI czar, saying they have 300,000 chips. And then based on my analysis of how quickly they're speeding up their installation of 100,000 chips, 120 days, 92 days, I believe they're down to 70 or 60 days. And then they'll get even faster, 50 to 45 days. And I think they can get to 30 days per 100,000 chips. And that, if you do that by the middle of the year, then in 6 months, you install 600,000 chips. So you install another 100,000 to get to 400,000, and then 100,000 chips per month to get to 1 million. So this installation
Wow.
advantage is huge because no one else is at that. They're still at trying to install their first 100,000 coherently. They can install them in multiple buildings, so like 600,000 chips into 30 different buildings, but doing it all in one spot with coherent memory, that is the advantage that XAI and Tesla have. And then I think the chips is a critical aspect of Tesla becoming the AI winner. Winner on chips, winner on applications and bots, winner on mobility with cyber cabs and semi trucks, and then winner on AI for coding, which again improves the data center as a AI factory.
And what are these last two pictures here on the top right and the
That's
bottom
just
left?
still part of the data center. I just didn't cover it over. It's the artifact. The other trucks, those are the power. Those are the mobile
That
natural gas turbines. So
mhm,
each one of
that
those
power the
is
data
a
centers. Okay.
power the data centers. Yeah, 16 megawatts.
Okay.
Yeah,
So your thesis is that 2026 is when it's going to be clear that Tesla is going to be the AI winner.
yeah.
And you articulated that well because all of this is coming to fruition by next year.
Mhm.
Okay. And so you're going to tell me more about the chips and the AI. We're going to go deeper into Robotaxi. But before that, how do you have the confidence, Brian, to still say that the stock will be $1,000 by the end of the year? First of all, that is the highest I've heard anybody ever say.
Yeah.
Some people said 600, 750, and then they've actually backed off
Mhm.
because the volume of the 1.8 million, the 2 million, 2.3 million cars that they expected to be sold this year is now reduced,
Mhm.
the chance of that. And then we know that the robotaxi is not going to be material until second half next year. So
Mhm.
how do you have the 1,000 price target?
My 1,000 price target is that one, we're at about as we record this, at about $350 per share. So once we clear 365, so there's only like a few levels, 365, maybe 420, and then 48. So if we trade through those levels, if like if we get say over 365 this week, then we're trading up into the 400s. So people view those numbers, the price differences, as being huge levels. We're only like 2 levels away from all-time highs, 365, 420, and then you're trading to all-time highs. So the momentum in the market, with the trade um, looking like it's coming to the deal, 9-day deal, but likely to a full deal with China, means that the macro stuff is now back to our side again, which was most of the move from 220 before the election to 488 in late December and into January was because of the belief that, okay, Trump is going to be good for the market, Trump's going to deregulate, and we're going to get rid of the attacks from the Democratic side. So we're flipping back majorly on the macro there with this deal. And then supposedly Kevin Hassett, one of Trump's financial advisors, saying that they have 24 other major deals to be announced each individually. So like a deal with India, a deal with Japan, etc., Canada, and all that kind of stuff. So there's more macro stuff that's going to happen, and that could give us another 10%. Beta wise, that would be like 20% for Tesla. So then just from that, you can get another 70 points to get to, the low 400s, and then you can push on through. So there's already things in motion that I think can get us back to the 400s. People view those, oh, it's $100. Once you're past certain levels, the percentage move is actually not as substantial. And then if we're everyone thinking positively about it, um, then and also that the institutions would buy, like maybe Saudi Arabia is buying now. They announced, yesterday that the interest in robotaxi, interest in Teslabot. They bought the um, Starlink as a service, and they're making other investments. So if Saudis, you know, geopolitically on board with that, their fund could be buying into Tesla. They could have bought before. So there's other institutional movements related to that. And also that they could, make a deal on robotaxi because they previously were dealing with Lucid or something like that. So them flipping over from Lucid to Tesla in a major way, financially investment wise, would be a major lift for the stock. But I think the robotaxi release is one of the major things for the last half of the year. Is we say that it may not be financially substantial, but once it's forecastable, that would be the the move, where basically we go to over 1,000 vehicles in a couple 3 months, and perhaps even starting out with a few hundred, if I'm correct that it has to be supervised and unsupervised, and then getting to 1,000 vehicles that would be beyond Waymo level, beyond all the other robotaxi levels, and then showing a financial model that the unit economics that can then say, okay, this is a serious threat to Uber. Then that psychological change would say, okay, yes, the ARK Invest scenario is going to happen.
So you explained really in detail how it's going to get past the 400 or all-time highs, and then you think that robotaxi by itself, despite not being earnings, but if
Yeah,
they can prove that they can actually beat Uber, that they have had a real viable business, it actually is working, that's enough. You think that it'll take from 450, let's say, to 1,000?
right. So I think anything over 2,000 vehicles, but definitely over 10,000 vehicles, would clearly show that this is going to a million
Mhm.
vehicles, that they're not doing teleoperation and stuff like that. It would take that scenario off the table. And the fact that it would be working safely and generating, if you do 20,000 or more miles, ideally 50,000 more miles per vehicle, then at $1 per, then that if you have 10,000, that would be in the 200 to $500 million range. It would be substantial revenue. And also, I think there is the sales gone wild scenario, where basically it's the only, right now it's competing as the EV, but it would be the only true AV, autonomous
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah.
And then people would then buy more of it. I have my own chauffeur, even if I'm not doing it out, and a potential to be an Airbnb. Companies would then line up to buy it. So that sales gone wild trigger would be where Hertz or the person who wants to run 20 vehicles has to buy it. They have to buy it now in order to get their charging, their insurance and other stuff all sorted out. That also goes to my thesis that besides supervised, unsupervised mix, would that you would have early sign up to, definitely the people who are already driving Uber and Lyft would sign up into Austin,
Yeah.
perhaps a month or two into it, and then the the rollout to the general Tesla consumer after that. So you say, okay, you can come in as a supervised person, but with the understand that you will become an unsupervised shortly. So then the question is, how do they manage that in terms of FSD purchases? Because the sales of vehicles in order to be in this queue, but then sales of FSD or subscription to FSD would then also happen. So by proving that model exists, the the sales would line up because it would be the price of used cars would go up. People would be accumulating, stockpiling these vehicles, knowing that I'm about to start making $20,000, $50,000 per year next year, right? But I can start doing it supervised early and be part of the Tesla network. Um, So I think that is a scenario that can happen based upon my what I think can happen with Robotaxi in detail. We have a couple of slides about
Yeah,
that.
we'll go with that. So it's interesting because you're being very obviously a lot of things have to happen
A lot of things
correctly.
have to
Like
happen.
a lot have to happen, and so you're predicting that okay, if the Robotaxi program launches in June, and then they prove that it works, and just that it's forecastable, that's enough to get, let's say, a Hertz or some big deals being announced. Hey, they're going to buy 100,000 cars. People
Mhm.
start realizing that these are now the first autonomous vehicles, and so you start to see that they're going to start uh, back to maybe the 50% growth rate again, or higher growth rates than they have been before. So both the
Yeah.
car business goes up, Robotaxi goes up, but the big leap there, Brian, is you're making the leap from 450 to 1,000. That's like $1 trillion company
Right.
out of
So
thin air.
the
Yeah,
other reason that it's not that big a deal is that once you are past 500, right, your all-time
yeah,
highs, right, past
yeah,
48, 500, right, that goes to also the number of Fibonacci levels there is to 1,000. I think
sure.
there's only 3 Fibonacci levels. That I
Yeah,
go from I by 500,
seven. Yeah,
next thing is 650,
yeah,
next
yeah,
one is 850, next one 1,000.
yeah,
There's only 3 levels between there.
yeah,
So once you've
yeah.
blown by it, and I'm showing some financial results that kind of support it, with energy and blah blah blah, then it's it's like once you broke through, it's like boom boom.
Yeah,
I don't have to
there's
fight for
nothing
every
stopping it from
dollar,
keep going up. That's a
right?
technical analysis. I know that I'd interviewed Mark Newton before Fundstrat, and he said something similar, which is once it's past the all-time high, the next one, I remember something like 700 something is like,
Right.
you know, and again, a lot of good things has to happen. It has to be supported. But okay, so you're sticking your guns. We'll see if
Yep.
you're correct. You're very bold to do that. I've had a
Yep.
couple other folks that I've interviewed who have retreated their sky high 600, 700 price predictions, brought it back down. You're sticking to your 1,000, Brian. Love it.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
let's talk Robotaxi. You have a different, unique position of what you think might happen, what Tesla will have to do. So
Yep.
Robotaxi, Tesla's announced that they're going to launch Robotaxi initially 10 to 20 cars, Model Ys. It's going to be fully autonomous at the very beginning. At some point, they'll introduce cyber cabs. They're going to go slow. But in the code, we're watching code that's going to be added to the Tesla app. There was one that said call driver. And so
Yep.
some of us were kind of going, what does that mean? Why would you need a call driver? Now, it could just mean call the remote driver, talk to
Mhm.
somebody in Tesla and talk to them, call driver. There's a button
Yep.
there. But it could also mean maybe that it is a supervised version. So that means that, that maybe some people are saying Tesla will say, okay, in Austin, it's a robo taxi, but
Mhm.
in Seattle, Washington, I have my car. I can be an Uber driver, a Tesla driver. I can sit in the car seat, let it
Mhm.
drive FSD, but
Mhm.
I'm physically there for, supervised.
Right.
And you think that maybe some people are going, that's what Tesla will do. They'll make it so that anybody in the US can basically participate in the Tesla robotaxi or Tesla ride hail service. And in some cities, it's supervised. And you're saying that the reason they might need to do this is that in Austin, they can't just do robotaxi alone. They need to be supported by supervised, right? So let's explain
Right.
that.
So we have the June 1st launch. I'm saying supervised, unsupervised. We already have 150 to 300 Tesla
Correct.
drivers giving
Employees. Yeah.
employees rides, right?
Supervised.
So
Yeah.
supervised rides, right? So if you're already giving supervised rides, if I'm making this transition, I flip them over to not just giving employee rides, but the public rides, right? That they say, okay, general public, not just employee, I'm giving everyone a ride. I'm already driving around doing it. I need to get the miles anyway. Tesla's paying me to do stuff. Why am I only doing it during the commute from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Right? I'm still on the road. I can just give more rides to everyone else in Austin or to some segment of the people if I do one quarter or 1/10 of the city. And in order to do a reasonable volume, like if I only have 10 to 20 cars in order to have decent wait times, I think Sir Bash made this point, you're only doing a square mile. You can only, it takes me, 5, 10 minutes to get to you. And so I can't do enough area. In order to do a larger area, I need to have more cars. So either it's a fast growth of only unsupervised, or I'm mixing in supervised and unsupervised. And
Mhm.
then if I have the end state next year, say middle next year, Elon and teams say we're going to have million to millions of cars, which means you must open it up to the network, right? It has to be opened up to the network by next year. But before that, before I can sign on next year, I need to have insurance. I need to have cleaning. I need to do stuff to make sure I'm ready to go, right? And either I do it all with Tesla next year, boom, they flip it on, they solved everything, or I need to find third parties or myself to arrange for people to clean the car. Like I've done Airbnbs before. You got to get the towels, you got to get the sheets, you have to clean. I have to arrange. I may not be able to do the turn every time myself. I need to hire someone to do it, right? So I need to get that set up. I need to also get my insurance set up. Airbnb has some insurance, but other insurance made me to be ready, so that all that sign up onboarding has to happen. And if I'm going to market it, why don't I start marketing it now? Sign on as a supervised driver with understanding, hey, we're going to go to this unsupervised thing, but you need to sign up now, because not everyone's going to sign up, right? If I do it city by city, I want to get 10, 20 unsupervised cars as soon as I can, several hundred. I have the supervised cars with drivers, which I gather the data faster and I can roll those into unsupervised as quick as I can. But having that mix going, starting from 90% supervised, 80% people, external owners, who are Lyft drivers, whatever, Uber drivers, and then getting over to the end state in a year of 100% or 80% or whatever of unsupervised, and then transitioning over to completely supervised, maybe not till 2028. So having that mix so that I can fully compete with Uber, with a system with low wait times, and people who are converting over into the things. I'm saying that this conversion process needs to happen, and why not start? You need to really start earlier. Um, I think start this year. Ideally, I think it would start roughly the same time, but I could see a staggered thing where maybe I wait a month. But in order to get the scale of a large enough area within Austin, you need to have this mix of um, paid Tesla employee, unsupervised, and then um, converted Uber drivers, and then other people signing up. That sign up process is going to take time. So why
Mhm.
wait till next year before starting to sign people up? Because then you're just delaying everything by months to a year to get that sign up process to happen.
Yeah, very interesting. I have to give it a lot of thought.
Yeah.
First thought that comes to my mind is, well, Waymo, they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Waymo launched it city by city. They're in 4 cities. I think they're capable to do it for 7 cities. They've announced recently they have 1,500 cars. It's 100% unsupervised, so people
Mm-hmm.
know that Waymo is a robotaxi. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now in Austin, they did for some reason for the Austin decide that they're going to be partnered with Uber
Mm-hmm.
just to exactly do what you're saying, which is, you download the Uber app, you have the Uber app, you want to ride hail, and then every once in a while, because I think they're only going to have, I think, 100 cars, Waymo cars
Right.
in New Austin. So then every once in a while, there's a Waymo that's unsupervised that takes you off. But if it's not available because it's only 100, you're not 99% of the time you won't have a robotaxi available. Then you get a
Mm-hmm.
normal driver. You're saying that you think that Tesla in Austin will launch 10 to 20 cars that are fully robotaxi at the beginning, first day one, expand that over time. But at the same time, why not have Tesla employees supervised, add that to the mix because they already have 300 of them. Apparently, they're all driving around
Right.
Austin now. Let them have it. And then over time, allow customers, if you live in Austin, you could be part of it, supervised. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
mix of supervised and unsupervised. Hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
the other thing is like, as you said, Waymo's doing it with Uber in Austin. Also, if you look at China, Apollo Go, Auto X, they do a mix of supervised and unsupervised, and
Yes.
predominantly it is supervised. That they have
Yes.
people who've gone over there say it's about
True.
80-90%
Right.
supervised.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you order a ride hail and you think it's Robotaxi, but actually there's a person sitting there, and sometimes there isn't. Yeah. I
Right.
just thought that that was really more for getting permits, and that because their product's not ready, and they really
Right.
aren't.
Right.
Versus Tesla's full self-driving is ready,
Right.
and it's about branding to me. It's like, boy,
Mhm.
do you really want to call whatever Tesla calls it, Tesla Robotaxi, that service? Download the app, and then every once in a while you'll have a person there. I just
So
don't
another
think they
reason.
should.
So I see your case, and I can
And
see.
so just to complete this thought, Cern Basher said, well, if you are going to start with 10 to 20 cars, and then let's say you then have 100 cars, then you eventually have 1,000 cars of full robotaxi, whether it's a Model Y or a cyber cab, then the only way to do it would be to do it by geography. You would have it by 1 square mile, 10 square miles, 100 square miles, like that. Be very careful because you don't want to piss off anybody because you don't have enough cars. And
Right.
so you're saying, well, that's how you open it up quicker. Yeah.
Right. Right. So the other aspect of that is that let me just think here. So when I see your case, that if they have a fast rollout, they can scale. The Stern Basher just expands the zones. If everything's going great, then that does work, and you can be pure. And I can see
Pure.
Elon being stubborn
Yeah.
and being pure, but
Yes.
in
Yeah.
terms of the logistics of it, that if I want to have a complete service and not have weight problems, and also I'm gathering more data on it, right? And also there is the conversion aspect of people not wanting some won't ride in the unsupervised, but they would ride in supervised. So giving the option of like,
Yeah.
just like Uber has, Auto X or whatever, different range of options for the
Mm,
consumer, that we meet the consumer where they are now. That
mm,
um, many
gotcha.
of them will want unsupervised. And the other thing is that if they get in the
Mm,
car and experience it, right, then that could get them converted, right? Because hey,
mm.
I'm in the car, that
With
guy
somebody
did
there,
nothing
you feel
with
safe.
someone
Yeah.
with Sam Safe,
Yeah.
so gain that conversion. So
Interesting.
it's
Yeah.
the network conversion and it's the customer conversion to give them the
Mm,
experience of like how many, and they're paying for the ride to experience it. So I'm getting paid test drives with the
yeah.
vehicle to also convert it. So
Yeah.
that's also meeting where they are now. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And I actually agree that the more rides that they do, regardless of supervised or non-supervised, it's going to be a demand driver for people wanting to buy a car. We had JC on my space, and as a Tesla investor, decided to be an Uber driver just to test things out. He does 200 rides a night, like some ridiculous number
Wow.
like that.
Wow.
Yeah, he was saying. And it was like, yeah, everybody walks in, doesn't think that it's just blown away all the time. Okay, let's keep moving. You got a lot to share with us today. So just to finish off the robo-taxi conversation, low price cars, unboxed 2 to 5 times more cars, $15,000 cost. What is this?
So this goes to that the cyber cab has a
Yeah,
potential to get to a $15,000 cost to Tesla, and that the unbox process is going to be used for the construction of it. So that's the modular Lego-like construction, and they've been talking about having that to have 2 to 5 times more cars per line. So this
right.
goes to the not just scale of Model 3s and Model Ys for robotaxi, but for huge numbers of these cars. So the scale for Tesla AI robotaxi would be far more than people think in the 2026, 2027, 2028 timeframes.
Mm,
That they could, if the Tesla bots and the unbox process really work, then the scaling of Tesla would be far higher. And if it's autonomous vehicle demand, then the supply and demand would meet into a super giant company making 10 million, 20 million, 40 million cars per year.
So you still think 20 million cars is possible. Some people are laughing at that number, but now you're going, hey, with unbox, with cybercabs, that
Yeah.
number's back on the table. Yeah.
That number back on
All
the
right.
table for me, yes.
Cool. All right, let's go to AI 5. Or what's this? AI 5X?
5x.
Yeah.
So the history of the AI models, pre XAI was, going back 12 years, was that OpenAI and the others were increasing their compute by about 5 times every year. And this is by the
Mm,
Epoch AI organization. But the difference is that now Tesla is going to increase by 50 times
mm.
from Grok 3 to Grok 5. So we already increased by 12 times from Grok 2 to Grok 3. And these little dots, data points showing how much compute was in each model. In their latest thing, the Grok 3 has the most compute at 1.2 times 10 to the 26 flops. So 10 to 26 flops is like 100 trillion. So it's a huge number, and then it goes up to 10 to the 30. But so the other models cap out at about actually 2 to 5 times 10 to the 25. So they are 6 times to 2 times smaller than Grok 3, even with the latest Gemini 2.5 models. So they are stuck below Grok 3, even though Grok 3 has been out for several months. And the Grok 3.5 releasing hopefully this week or next week, it's going to have 3 times the compute. So that means it goes from 1.2 up to like 5 times 10 to the 26, or 50 times 10 to the 25. So that means it's 10 times more compute than any other model, and 3 times more compute than Grok 3. And that's only like 4 months, 3 months after the Grok 3 was released. And another 3, 4 months, we will have Grok 4, which I say will have 12 times the compute of Grok 3, or about 50 times the compute of any other model. And
50
then
times the compute. Yeah. So
50 times
by
compute.
2026, Tesla will have 50 times the compute of the next best models out there.
Right. And then they will have a Grok 5 that will have 50 times the compute of Grok 3 and about 150, 200 times the compute of the other models, unless they can solve the bottleneck around scaling the number of chips and the
Will
number
this
of
be
chips.
visibly seen by the average investor, by the average person? Can they like clearly understand that Tesla's really this much farther ahead, 50 times the compute?
Right. So the reason we haven't seen it yet is
Right.
that they use more compute for Grok 3, but it had certain data and model inefficiencies. The algorithm side and the data side was not as good as Anthropic or
Mm.
OpenAI or Gemini. They have better data. There's some other efficiencies around their model. So yes, they have 3 times, 5 times more compute, but they're also 3 to 5 times more inefficient on the model side.
Yeah.
But those improvements should have been made, which we should see in Grok 3.5 or 4. So the compute advantage does exist, and the algorithm software advantage that the others have and data advantage the others have should go away. So that's my thesis, and that will be proven with 3.5 hopefully, and then definitely by 4 they should make the advantage, because every other model has been copying every other model, right? So why should the XAI developers be inferior to the OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini,
It
and
just becomes compute. Yeah.
it just
Compute's
becomes
the
compute,
differentiator. Gotcha.
right?
Okay. And then you've got Tesla bots. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the dancing Tesla bots, and then the main purposes of it is to unlock fully the unboxed process by using those with Tesla bots, where people don't know they would break into modules and they'd have people or bots standing around a module versus having to crawl inside one unit. I could have 10 pieces and I could have 40 people or 40 bots around each of the 10 pieces, and then I snap them all together at the end. So that's how the unbox process, because the unbox by breaking into modules means I don't have to have the dexterity climbing in, threading things. It's all designed for robot speed and robot utility. And then they will each have the AI5 inference chip. Every car and Tesla bot by the end of this year would have the new hardware 5 AI5 chips, which should be 10 times more compute than the AI4 chips, which is, besides enabling the better robotaxi, the better Tesla bot, the AI5 chip also enables really good inference, distributed inference, where I have 5 million chips, 10 million chips distributed around the world, and they can be used to do AI programming tasks like 1 or 10 data centers computing this, because they all be spread around
Yeah.
generating the
Yeah.
power.
Okay.
So that is
There's
part of the
yeah. Yeah, okay. There's a lot that you just said, but I know I'm following you because I've had these. We've done a few shows here, so it's all
right,
coming together. So first of all, what you're saying is you fully expect that Tesla bots will contribute significantly to the unboxed model 2026,
right,
which means that the actual production of these cybercabs, of these cars that are now moving towards unboxed model, Tesla bots will help with that. That's one of the things they can do. Secondly, you said that all the bots, all the cars will start having AI5 at some point. But these AI5s, as they're distributed, they can actually be used as compute, as data centers. Instead of being in one data center, they're now distributed, but you can actually access their compute power. And that also will accelerate Tesla's AI endeavors faster than anyone else because
right.
they're just building great chips. Yeah.
Right. So the AI4 and AI and Harbor 3 and Harbor 4 chips, if they're and the systems they have, if they're $1,000 each for that, the fact that we have 7 million to 8 million out there
Yeah.
means that we have $8 billion worth of compute distributed around the world that people have paid
Just
for,
sitting there.
just
Yeah.
sitting there. And then if I have that for a better chip, and I use
Yeah.
people are paying for them and getting out there, then just like the car can make money for both of us, the chip can make money for both of us.
Yeah,
And
because
so,
Tesla will pay you for the hours of when you're not using that AI5 chip in your car. They'll go, hey, I'll take 2 hours worth of it. Do you mind? He's like,
right.
sure, pay
And
me
here's the money.
25 bucks
Right.
an hour.
Right.
Which is okay.
And
Yeah,
they also do
gotcha.
that for the virtual power plant where the power walls, I made a
Yeah,
few extra $1,000 there by providing, emergency power for the utility.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's another model that they've done with that. So similar kind of
yeah.
thing.
Pretty cool. Okay. 4680s is coming in line. When do you expect it?
Right. So I'm saying, so 4680s and Dojo are both critical. 4680s are critical for the scaling of cars and
Mhm.
trucks, and it's been a bottleneck, and we know it's been late. And I'm expecting that they're going to resolve the dry cathode problem, and then they'll be able to start scaling these in a significant way. But the fact that they did not scale 4680s was a relative bottleneck to them scaling. It is the cheapest version, but they need them for domestic production of megapacks. They need them for the cars, especially with all of the tariffs and other things. You need to localize that production, and they need to have a LFP version of 4680s. So the ultimate speed that Tesla can scale its car and semi production is battery limited, and it's significantly 4680 limited as well. So there's two levels of limitation: one, any batteries, and then two, getting cheaper 4680 batteries. Conversely, Dojo is the same bottleneck on the AI side. The Dojo and the AI5 chips are limiters there, because we're making those 1 million um, XAI chips, but XAI is going to keep raising more money. $20 billion this time to get to the 1 million chips with a lot of debt. And then next time they can come back and say, if they have the best model, they can come back and say, we're worth more than OpenAI, because OpenAI's model is inferior now to ours. So then OpenAI's valuation is $300 billion. Ours was 120, $150 billion. Now we're worth $500 billion. And now I want to gather, um, $100 billion of stuff, and I could buy Dojo chips, not just Nvidia chips. So just like I buy CATL batteries, and instead I could buy 4680 batteries, I could buy my own Dojo chips if I catch up there. And having full control of the AI stack is just as even more important than having full control, or the alternative of on the 4680 versus CATL batteries. I need to not be fully dependent on the Nvidia chips. I need to have my own Dojos. So they're both addressing bottlenecks. One for the
Right.
car and energy side, the other for the on the AI side.
AI. Yep. Okay. So they're both critical, but they're both coming online and they're both starting to move. And so that's why the world's going to change by 2026 because they're no longer going to be bottlenecks or at least less of a bottleneck.
Right.
Okay.
So the AI disruption is that, Teslabots disrupt labor, automated cars disrupt transportation. The other thing is a coding multiplier that my stack of my data center super intelligence is data center, but data center is made up of chips, networking, servers, and I need to improve that. And my installation of that was my advantage for XAI that I can install them faster, make them faster. But I want to take control of each part of that stack, making my chips better, designing better chips, installing more of them, and making my software and coding better. So if I can make my own code, I can make my own version of CUDA for Dojo. CUDA being the software that enables people to program in parallel mode. And they're all the critical path multipliers of how can I get to, Elon talked about terawatt, which is 1 billion chips. So going from 1 million chips to 1 billion chips. TSMC can only make about 5 million chips currently for the GPUs, the B200s, B300s. They're scaling that up. Maybe in 3 years, they'll double to 10 million. But if I want to make 1 billion chips, I need to design them without interposer bottlenecks, without high bandwidth memory constraints. There's a bunch of things I need to design it in a way that doesn't have that. And then the terawatt of power, a terawatt of power is the entire power of the United States. So that means if I'm installing that myself, then I need to scale up natural gas by 4 times. Natural gas is 1/3 of the United States power. So I need to have to 4 times as much if I was going to do all natural gas for that terawatt, because I need to go to a total of 2 terawatts total. Or I need to do solar and batteries, but solar is only 1.5 to 2% of the world's power, of the United States power, about 4% in China. So in order for me to go to terawatt that was solar and batteries, I need to scale up solar power and batteries by 50 times. So there's these huge lifts that have to happen on the energy side and also on the chip side because there's insufficient chips. So there has to be a solution that I think that Elon and Tesla would want to do, would be to take control or to scale it up by 100 times. So getting control of the chips, if I have that end goal, again, working back, the sooner I can take control of it, the better it is for the company. Where just like Elon took control of satellite launch, he mass produces 90% of all the satellites with Starlink. He launches most of them. He's going to go to 99%. So when the other people don't move fast, he will take control and move faster.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. That's what can happen when these multipliers start happening.
Right.
Okay.
But it also becomes just like if I want to get to 1 million car drivers or drivers, and if I want to get to 1 billion chips, then working back is he can't depend upon other people to do it for him. He has to take control of the energy. He has to control the chips. He can work with the others, but if they can't scale up as fast, he says, I must scale up faster. Right. So that's if we identify that's the critical path, he won't let someone else, if TSMC doesn't do it or if Nvidia doesn't do it, then I'm screwed. So then this other part of how fast the AI domination happens is to know that the Grok 3.5 coming out soon, Grok 4 and then Grok 5,
you talked about
each
this
about
already.
3 to 6 months away.
It's crazy.
They are also critical for this AI transformation, that he needs to start using these AIs. They have to start better so that he can use them to make the Tesla bots better and everything else better.
Code better, the factory better, everything better. Yeah, that's why it's a multiplier. It's not only leading the others, it's not only being able to provide a better service, LLM, but it's actually what you're going to use to create new inventions, new improve efficiencies. Yeah, XAI. Yeah,
so
this is a beautiful
going
photo.
Into the previous things about XAI. Probably the rest of my desk is not relevant, but this is the Colossus area where they said they had 200,000 chips back in February, and now they have 300,000. And So everything then becomes revolves around AI. If AI is the winning company and everything about it, then AI the focus. Cars are not the focus. It is the chips inside the cars, the chips inside the bots.
Yeah.
The that is the everything. How good that is determines how good the company is.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
So I
so
guess your thesis, though, 'cause first of all, you laid out what you think a stock price will be in 2025, and then you've spent the time here explaining why 2026, all these things are going to come together. That it's going to be very clear that Tesla is the AI leader,
right.
and how to AI winner. I guess what's your probability that this will be all happening in 2026?
For me, it's I would say I think that the Robotaxi Cybercab, I'm highly confident about. I think that's 80%. The Tesla bots working in the factories with unboxed, that is
That's low
probably more at
percentage.
20%. That could be a year or
Yeah.
two delayed.
Yes.
The factory getting to some form of unboxed, I think is assured, but you'll be using humans a lot. So the
Yeah.
mix of a human versus bot is there.
Yeah. They're doing it now, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Dojo 2 and Dojo 3, getting them to be significant and useful, I think is assured, but are they going from 5% of their chips to 20% or to only 10%, or can they get to
Yeah.
50? Right? I think 50 might be 2027. But they
Hmm.
can identify their, I think James Dowman talked about, they know specific use cases. So they can say, I know I'm doing 50% of my workload is XYZ. So then I can target XYZ where Nvidia can't. So I think that that Dojo being useful is substantially useful at the 20% of chip level
Hmm.
is, I would go 50-50 on that.
Hmm. By
Um,
2026.
to
Hmm.
2026. And but just like he never gives up on 4680, he will not give up on Dojo. People who
It's
say
questions when is Dojo 2 going to come out and Dojo 3? That's the
right,
thing. It's
right.
will
So
it come out by
supposedly Dojo 2
2026?
is going to be in volume at the second half of this year. So that would
Yeah.
be a big tell if that's truly
Big
the
move.
case and how much they
Okay.
use it. And then Dojo 3, he talked about at the All In Summit, he talked about 2026, late 2026. But then other people say it can't happen and stuff like that. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
don't think so. Yeah. Dojo 3 is much longer ways, but I don't know. Just guessing. Right.
right.
Yeah.
But those are
And
critical path
then
things. So it's like,
And then
um,
data warehouse with, there's confirmation that Cortex 2 warehouse is being built, right? Joe Techmar
right,
found the permits for that. You can see that the building's being built. So Cortex 2 will expand on Cortex 1, which is so you expect the Tesla's goal, they have 300,000. You think Tesla, not XAI, Tesla. Well, they have only 100,000 right now. You think that they will also get to the million?
yes, I think they would also go to a million. I think they will need it for Robotaxi and Teslabot, but that's my assumption that I think it's a matter of time. So how fast do they need it? How fast do they do it?
Yeah.
Um, that's an unknown question.
Yeah, but what
I'm
you've been mapping out is that every several months, they're already getting 100,000 a month almost. So you actually think that's XAI, right? You think XAI can do
yeah,
100,000 a month,
right.
which
Um,
if they can do it there, maybe they will be able to replicate it for Tesla too,
yeah, and I would
because
think
they're the
that
same team.
Tesla would use more dojos, that they are more suited, more targeted for
Yeah.
bot and car applications, so that would scale
Mhm.
more toward that. So if Tesla goes to and not XAI goes to 300,000, 500,000 chips, that's where the bulk of the dojos would end up going. They would have to
Sure.
redesign dojo substantially for it to be even specialized, applicable to XAI. But there is stuff on the networking side, that patent that said that they had done hardware version of Ethernet. That patent really only applies to the Dojo chips, but they have some other
Yeah.
solution on the Nvidia side, which I'm not clear on. And I've talked to experts about that, and they're not clear on that. So the the fact that they
Mhm.
control all aspects of Dojo and its deployment means that if they come up with their own new solutions, innovations, it's easier for them to roll it out on the Dojo side of things. So the more new idea they come up with on their own AI side, like the patent on Ethernet, to microsecond communication, the more they would go to the Dojo side of things because they're making it for themselves.
Great thesis. I mean, 2026, we're going to see robotaxi, we're going to see robots, we're going to see Dojo, we're going to see data warehouses, compute, we're going to see Grok. All of this will be much more mature than they are today, so that by 2026, it's going to be much more like obvious that Tesla is an AI company and that it's impacting their own business. Their factories are going to be more efficient. Their car manufacturing will be more efficient. The cars will sell more because they've got FSD that works, that actually really, really works at this point. That's like hard to ignore.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think this might be it. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that an outside potential for the stock is that if XAI is the winner on AI, that if Grok 3.5, 4, and 5 are really the super
clearly the winner, and no one's going to catch up to them because they're just accelerating so fast.
That means that the money that they raise, the money that they earn, a substantial part of it could end up flowing back to Tesla for if Dojo chips become the main purpose. So if
buy the Dojo chips from Tesla, buy the data from Tesla, all the video data, they want that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So a quarter, 10% to a third of the money that XAI raises or earns could flow back into Tesla.
Yeah.
Right.
Could be the other way too, though. But Tesla's going to need to buy Tesla needs to buy Grok from AXAI to power their cars and their bots, which is great either way, honestly.
Right.
But yeah. Okay, Brian, great show. You're always very bold. You're always very out there, but you have your good theses. At least you come with your theories.
Yeah.
You've hit it right a few times, so we'll watch closely. I'm still very skeptical of $1,000 by the end of this year. That one, I don't know if that was backed with any data. That was just more of if this hits, then technicals. The rest, this AI winner thing by end of 2026, that I think you came with a lot of good data to defend that, as I can see that happening for sure.
Okay, great.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate you, buddy. See you soon. Bye, all.
Bye.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.